Hey there, everybody. Matt Carter here.
I'm Jessica Carter from CARTERMATT.com.
This video is our preview, expectation, and theories for This Is Us Season 4, Episode 13, which for now is slated to air in 2 weeks on February 11th. It seems like all networks are anticipating State of the Union is going to happen on the 4th, so nobody's really scheduling anything for that. So we will proceed forward as though it's going to be the 11th, always subject to change. But this is going to be the conclusion of our 3-part trilogy about the big three. We've been through Randall's story, Kevin's story, and now we move on to Kate's, and we'll share some of what we're expecting within this video. But before we do, if you like this discussion, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any other updates. Now, if you look at the first 2 parts of this, Randall's story, I think, ends in a really, really difficult spot. He's breaking down. He needs help from Kevin. Kevin's story ends with him and Madison sleeping together, but I still...
After a pretty emotional journey with Sophie's mom dying and everything that was happening there.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like there's, I don't know, at least a slightly more hopeful conclusion to that still. I don't know if anything big is going to come out of the Madison stuff or not.
Yeah, I don't feel like I think the stuff that happened with Sophie's mom and the stuff that happened with Sophie is the more sort of emotional meat on the bone. Like, we've seen Madison and Kevin around each other a lot over the years, and it's never really been anything that's, I don't know, that's really a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see exactly what happens there. Anything still could. This is us after all. But
absolutely.
I think Kate's story is primed to be the most emotional, potentially evolved, because there's something that I've made very clear in a lot of discussions. Marc is the worst. Like, really, Marc is a guy who should just go somewhere, listen to his records, and we should never have to see him again. I'm done with Marc.
Yeah, I'm done with Marc too, and I don't know everything that's going on with Marc yet. I mean, none of us do. We have some ideas of where things are going with Marc, but that preview has really let us see just how crappy a person Marc is.
Yeah, this is a guy who has no problem seemingly abandoning Kate somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, who does that? Beyond that, let's also look at the other evidence that we have here of Marc's various misdeeds. We have that scene from earlier this season with Rebecca and Kate, where Rebecca kind of laments that she didn't see the signs. You know, she was too concentrated on other things at that point. I mean, we also have just the general sort of distaste that everyone else in the family has for Marc. Just also, the way that Marc speaks to her already is very much like, I think you're nothing and I'm going to treat you like you're nothing to get my way.
Yeah, and I mean, this relationship didn't feel like it was really starting out that way, but yeah, we've watched it kind of deteriorate over time, where he talks down to her and she seems to be a lot of thinking that it's her fault, and she's taking a lot of that blame on herself of the way that he's treating her.
I think one of the things we've sort of felt throughout a lot of This Is Us is that these characters, they're not defined by their past, but they're influenced heavily by their past.
As we all are.
Yeah, I think all of us, we're going to be informed by our decisions that we made before, and I think for Kate, this is someone who has been through a lot, obviously, with losing Jack, but she's also had clearly some troubled relationships in her past that made her struggle with her own self-worth, her self-image, and Marc is contributing heavily to a lot of that. But I think the big question here is, what is the final straw, and is Kate starting to see some of her relationship with Marc in her relationship with Toby?
Yeah, the big cliffhanger is really her being on the phone and saying that this is this defining moment of whether her relationship with Toby is going to continue on or her marriage is going to be in complete collapse. And after seeing everything that we've seen with them, from Toby in the first season collapsing to them getting married, losing a baby, having another baby with difficulties, and then him sneaking around with the gym and all of this other stuff. Like, there's been a lot that they've gone through. that is going to really, I think, break a lot of us viewers apart if they end up not together.
And I'm worried. Like, I'm not going to sit here and do the typical, oh, everything will be happy in the end, because there's bad evidence. There's very bad evidence. There's that flash forward you saw to the birthday party where Kate signed her name Kate Pearson. That has me concerned. There's the fact that Kate is not in that deep flash forward yet. That doesn't mean she's not going to be. She just hadn't shown up. But her and Toby did not arrive there at the same time, if Kate is going to arrive.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that I'm not worried. And This Is Us. So this is a show that is happy to take us on a pretty emotional journey, whether it's happiness or just complete devastation.
I think there must be a reason why Kate signs it Kate Pearson and not Kate Damon. I feel like they may not be together at that point. But the thing that I'm sort of holding on to here is that just because you're really struggling and maybe the relationship even falls apart, that doesn't mean that it has to be that way forever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People do get separated, they do get divorced, and they do end up back together again. It's pretty common.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe at that particular time in their lives, they weren't able to make their marriage work and they did go separate ways, but we could see them come back around.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen it with Kevin and Sophie. I mean, granted, it didn't last, but they still tried it, and they tried to see if something more could happen.
Yep.
So I think that's all still there on the table with Kate and Toby, but in sort of like piecing together what are their sort of fundamental problems right now, I think a lot of it probably just stems from this idea that the two of them have very different images of what life with baby Jack was going to look like. And you see Jack, instead of putting more of his energy on Jack, I mean, Toby putting more of his energy on Jack and on Kate, he's sort of putting his energy on something external, something that's separating him further from the two of them.
Yeah, a lot of this, I get where Toby's coming from. This is a very difficult situation and everybody reacts in different ways, but he is separating himself from this whole thing instead of putting himself into it more, trying to find a way to connect with it more. He decided to connect more with himself and going to the gym and stuff like that. So he's kind of isolated himself from the family. And that is a problem. I mean, not only is he married, so he does have an obligation to his wife, but he's also a father, and he's a father of a baby with special needs. Like, this is a time that they need him.
I think a lot of this is also an issue of just balance for Toby, because, you know, it's important for any marriage, for any relationship. You got to be able to sort of compartmentalize and recognize, okay, this is gym time or this is family time. And I think Toby, as a person, has always sort of struggled to try to find that balance. It would be one thing if he was like, you know what, I'm going to go to the gym a couple of times a week, maybe spend 30 minutes there, an hour there, versus what he seems to be doing, which is diving so headfirst into that and making all these new friends and kind of leaving Kate in this position where, you know, she's kind of forced to look towards external outlets as well, where, don't get me wrong, give me all the Timothy Amundsen you want, This Is Us, but, you know, she's spending more time with Gregory and she's finding more just opportunities to communicate and vent elsewhere.
And it's possible that their relationship is just kind of falling out because they are going on different paths. That also happens in marriage. And my hope is that if they do end up splitting up, that it's not going to be something that's not repairable down the line, where maybe this is a period of time where she's focused on more on the baby and what's going on, and he's more focused on his health and the gym, and he has developed sort of this other part of his life, that they will be able to find a way to reconnect on something else down the road.
What I'm just hoping for here is that, because we got to imagine that the past storylines are going to sort of intersect in some way thematically with the present, right? So I feel like maybe we're going to get a sense of, okay, this is what happened with Kate and Marc so many years ago, and maybe we're going to see Kate concerned and wondering, you know, is Toby Marc? But maybe at the end of this, she'll come to the conclusion that Toby is not Marc, he is different, but is there still going to be enough there to actually preserve this relationship?
Well, if they do go that way, I'm pretty curious to know what type of connection could possibly be there, because Marc is the worst.
Yeah.
And we don't know everything about what he's doing yet, but he is really terrible. And I don't think Toby is terrible.
No.
I mean, yeah, he's gone and been doing these other things, but like I said, everybody deals with really serious things in all kinds of different ways, and I don't think he's doing anything maliciously to try to hurt Kate or hurt Jack or hurt himself or hurt his marriage.
No.
He's not out to be like that,
No.
like a Marc.
Marc wants to have the power over Kate.
Yes.
And I don't think Toby wants to have any power over Kate. But I think Toby is thinking a lot about Toby, and maybe not necessarily, at least explicitly, how it affects Kate. And maybe those two things will intersect in Kate's mind, and she'll start to relate to him and think that he's Marc in a way that maybe she shouldn't, just because that's her experience.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's her experience, and we all carry those experiences along with us and into our next relationships, whether we want to or not. It just is the way that it is. Every relationship we have is a building block into a next relationship, and so that's the good things, but that also sometimes is the marks.
Yeah, and so the only advice I can give is get tissues, buckle up, prepare to say all sorts of angry things about Marc, and we will be back to discuss episode number 13. I almost said 14. Yeah, episode 13 once it airs on NBC. But for now, give us your thoughts and theories as to what you think is going to happen, both with Kate and Toby in this episode, maybe in the future, and also Kate and Marc in the past. And if you like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and you can support us further by checking that link in the description to the CARTERMATT store, and we'll see you here next time.